Hello students, hi, how are you? Welcome to my channel. Okay, I'm very glad that you are here with me, although I do not know how many of you are here. Okay, I hope my students are here. Okay, so the purpose I'm having this class, actually it's a Saturday, I know everybody wants to relax. It's just that I have had requests from students who want to revise certain topics in Form 4. Okay, so I have actually, for those who are new to my channel, so I've carried out many lessons, okay, or in form of Form 5 lessons, because this year I teach primarily Form 5. So I've had almost a complete set of all the videos. So if you want to look at the videos, please go to my channel, and there's a playlist which I call Form 5 Tuition Live, DLP. Okay, you can have a look at all the videos. Okay, I've covered almost everything. Okay, except for those a few lessons which, because I had them in school. That was, remember when we had our class, we had a face-to-face lesson at around, that was in April, all right, for the whole of April and also the first week of May. So those are those few which I did not cover. And I also managed to make one or two videos to cover back, and that was chapter 3. So last week I had chapter 3, I covered back chapter 3, all right, to make a video. And today I'm starting off with Form 4 work, okay, because I've had requests from students who want me to revise Form 4. Okay, so I'm starting with chapter 14, which is the support system, and then I will proceed on to chapter 15, which is on reproduction, and it's actually quite a tough topic, okay, because there are certain concepts which are quite complicated and difficult to remember. So I hope I can guide you, all right? So, okay, I have someone in the comments. Okay, Min Yin, good afternoon. All right, good afternoon. Thanks for joining. Okay, now today, I do not know who you are. I hope I've got new students here. Okay, anyway, I hope you can get the benefit, read the benefit of my class. So it's welcome to all. You're welcome to share the link to anybody else. Okay, so let's start with chapter 14. Okay, you had it last year because you're Form 5 students, right? If you're Form 4, it's no problem. You can learn ahead. I'm sure, I think many of your classes have not done chapter 14 yet. I think you're around chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken, maybe chapter 11 or chapter 12. Okay, right, now I hope you can see this. Let me share screen. All right, okay, I think you can see this, okay, because I'm looking at it now. All right, now, maniac nerd, all right, hello. Okay, welcome to my channel. Now, in case my connection is not good, please do let me know, all right, because I will try to connect to another Wi-Fi and see how it goes, because it's about to rain here, so I'm a bit worried for my connection. So if there is any problem, please do let me know, all right, just type in the channel, in the comments anytime. Okay, let me continue with my class, all right. Now, so here, first of all, actually I'm covering 14.1 and 14.2. Okay, so there are two subtopics I'm covering. So the first one is, okay, Wi-Fi is good. Thank you, Amiro, for the time being. Okay, I hope the rain does not get much heavier. Otherwise, I may have a problem. Okay, now 14.1 is very simple. I can finish that in about 10 minutes, okay, because we're just talking about the different types of skeleton. So different types of skeleton, you can see here very clearly on my first slide. You have just 3 types. Okay, first of all, you have the rabbit here. You can't see the bones on the outside, so the bones must be inside. So that's endoskeleton. Okay, let's look at the 3 types. So one is endoskeleton, one is exoskeleton, and the one, the sea creatures and all that, this is actually hydrostatic skeleton. Okay, now first of all, before we look at the different types of skeleton, let's look at the function of skeletal system. Why do we need skeletons? Okay, so if we say skeleton, right, it's a noun. We can use the word skeleton. But if you want to say system, right, we need to use the word skeletal, because skeletal word, the word skeletal is actually the adjective of the word skeleton. So we don't say skeleton system, we say skeletal system. It actually basically is the same thing. You can say skeletal system or you can say skeleton. Okay, skeleton is a noun. Skeletal system is also a noun, but the word skeletal is an adjective. Okay, so let's see what's the function. Why do we need skeletons? Okay, so first of all, okay, this is very logical. You need, it provides support. Because without a skeletal system, all right, many of the organs in our body are actually heavy. So we would not be able to drag it up and go against gravity. So we may not even be able to stand upright. Okay, so our organs, our internal organs, actually because there's gravity, right? Everything is pulled downwards. So we might not be able to stand also if we do not have bones inside our body. Okay, provide support. Okay, next, protects internal body organs from injury. So you have certain structures, like example, the rib cage is a very good structure to give protection to our heart and also the lungs. So it forms a cage. Okay, it forms a cage, so the organs inside there are protected. Okay, attachment of muscles is very important because your muscles, how they work is they have to contract. So when they contract, they actually transfer the pulling force to the bone. Okay, but you must have a place to anchor it. You need to have a fulcrum. Okay, when you want to move something, as you know, the lever system, right? You have the fulcrum, you have the effort, you have the load. So if we want the muscles to move a bone, you need to anchor the muscle to something. You need to attach the muscles to a bone. All right, so that you can either pull it or that can serve as the fulcrum. All right, so there's attachment of muscles. Your bones are the attachment of muscles. And next, okay, can you see? Enables movement. All right, you're able to move because your muscles can pull your bones, and that's how you move. Maintains body shape. Okay, of course, that's important, right? If you do not have a certain structure, your body shape will be just like amoeba. When you do not have a certain fixed structure, a fixed shape, your body will be able to morph or to change as you want. Okay, which is may not be very convenient for human lah. All right. Next, stores calcium. Okay, now this is quite because specific for vertebrates. Okay, vertebrates. I'm not talking about all the other animals. So calcium is stored in the bone. So the bone is a very good storage of calcium. Besides the teeth, all right, teeth and the bones store calcium. And one more, also for vertebrates, all right, because we have bone marrow, right? Bone marrow is the place where we form red blood cells. Okay, so it's a place where we make red blood cells. So this is the general function of your skeletal system, okay, especially for vertebrates. Okay, let's look at the three types now. There are three types of skeleton, okay, as I've shown in the first diagram, in the first slide. Exoskeleton, and how do you know it's exoskeleton? Very simple. It usually has a protective covering on the outside. So like crabs, lobsters, prawn, all right, insects, you have a hard shell, not really shell, it's hard outer layer, and the inside is you have all these body tissues and so on. Okay, so next one you have endoskeleton. Endo means inside. Okay, you can see the word. Sometimes you can actually more or less guess what the word means. If you know exo means outside, so the skeleton is the outside. That means the protection is outside. Okay, then endoskeleton, the bone is inside the body. Okay, and the next one will be a hydrostatic skeleton. So hydrostatic actually means pertaining to liquid or water. So when you have hydrostatic skeleton, it means the pressure from the water or the liquid inside the body actually gives it structure. Okay, so it is the pressure of the liquid or the body tissues and the fluid that gives a certain form to the body. So if you were to puncture this earthworm, all right, you puncture the earthworm where the liquids can run out and so on, you will find that the body will not be able to hold its shape. Okay, so it depends on the liquid, the pressure of the liquid. That's why you call it hydrostatic. So when you see the word hydrostatic, it means liquid. Okay, hydro from the word hydro, it's water. Okay, let's look at one by one. Exoskeleton. Okay, you can see all the examples. These are the insects. Okay, we call it arthropods. Then you also have the mollusk, again, the shells and all that. So you have the crabs, you have the prawns. As long as they have a hard shell or hard covering, okay, some of it is calcified. That means with calcium, like the crab is calcified. Okay, but for the insect, it's not calcified. They are made of the structure of a substance called chitin. Okay, so they serve the same purpose, which is to support the body. Okay, and also protects the body organs from injury, from the outside injury and impact. Okay, and also enables movement. Okay, because it will able to, sometimes like the crab, it has muscles inside, so they have to attach that muscle to the shell, all right, on the inside, and that's how when they contract, it pulls the body parts along. Okay, so that is the exoskeleton. We look at endoskeleton. So besides human, you have all the vertebrates, and many of the vertebrates like the paws here. This is a rabbit actually. Yeah, by the way, this is a rabbit. Okay, you will see the rabbit. It looks like a bird, but actually this is the skull, or we call it the skeleton of a rabbit. And you can see there's a very long, tailbone. Okay, we don't see the rabbits having a long tail. Okay, because most of it is inside the body, right? And you can see some of them, they have fluffy tails and a bobtail and so on. So actually their tail is actually, the tailbone is quite long. Okay, now what is the function of the endoskeleton? Supports soft body tissue. So the body tissues are all on the inside. Okay, so it supports, okay, because it gives protection as well. It also protects the internal organs from injury. Okay, and its attachment for muscles, it also enables movement. So your muscles will contract. When it contracts, it pulls the muscles, pulls the bone. Sorry, the muscle pulls the bone, and the bone will be able to move, and your body moves. Okay, so that's what the this muscle does for your body. Okay, let's go on to the third one. Okay, hydrostatic skeleton. Now you can see all these sea creatures. Many of them are sea creatures, except for you see the earthworm, and this is a slug. Okay, a slug is basically just like a snail without the shell. Okay, the body tissue inside there is soft, so there is a liquid. All right, there is a hydrostatic skeleton. So it depends on that for the support because it doesn't have a shell. Okay, insect larvae considered an exoskeleton or hydrostatic skeleton? Okay, good question, Amirul. Okay, so when the larvae, right, larvae we call it the infantile form of the insect. Okay, now the shell, the outer covering is not very hard at that moment. Okay, as a larvae, so it will have hydrostatic skeleton because it's soft. Okay, it depends on the internal what you call the liquid in order to hold the shape. But you know that insects, they undergo metamorphosis. They morph into the pupa. Okay, and then they change into later on they change into the adult. Now when it moves from the what they call the larvae into the second stage, which is the pupa, all right, the stage of where they rest, the resting stage, and all the internal structures will change and so on. Okay, now when it has a shell, or rather a hard covering, then you will call it exoskeleton. Okay, then after that, when it becomes an adult, then you will have it the exoskeleton, because the chitin, the surface of that is actually a little bit of there's a rigidity there, it's hard. So when larvae, you wouldn't say it's exoskeleton yet. Okay, now some animals will have two. Okay, like you will see the snail. Some people call it endoskeleton because of hydrostatic skeleton because of the liquid inside the body, and also some people see it as exoskeleton because of the shell that they see. So it's not really, sometimes an organism can be put directly into one or the other group. Some of them will like have either a little bit of this or that, so they belong to two. Okay, so I hope that answers the question, Amirul. All right, so right, hi teacher. Yes, okay, year 5. Okay, very good. You're learning ahead. I'm sure you also see this in your science lesson. Okay, so as a larvae, I will say it's hydrostatic skeleton. But because they change, they undergo metamorphosis, then their skeleton changes. It becomes hardened. You have chitin to form the outer layer. Then that time you'll be considered the exoskeleton. Okay, let's look at the function of hydrostatic skeleton. Okay, supports the body, of course. Okay, and not only that, because if the animal or this organism is in water, it is also helped by a buoyancy of water. For example, like the jellyfish. Okay, so besides the hydrostatic skeleton, which offer not much buoyancy, it is the buoyancy of the water that also supports the body. Okay, if you take a jellyfish out of the water, you will see it just plop there on the floor there, right? Even though you have to say the hydrostatic skeleton, without the water buoyancy, there's not much of a form to the body. Okay, so maintains body shape. Okay, definitely, because it's from the liquid inside there that is pressing out that gives you the shape. Okay, so that is it maintains, or it relies on the liquid inside the body to give it a shape. Okay, now let's look at then I'm finished with 4.14.1. Actually, it's so simple as that. Just remember the 3 types, the 3 names, and remember some examples of each type. Okay, so I see some more comments here. Okay, all right. Okay, good. Sarah Sarati. Okay, Sarati. Okay, jellyfish example of, yes, of the hydrostatic skeleton, correct. Okay, Sarati. Okay, let's look at musculoskeletal human. Now we're talking about human now. Okay, forget about all the other animals. This 14.2 is talking about just the human body. Okay, all right, next. I have a question here. Is hydrostatic skeleton visible? Yes, it's not visible. Okay, you will, if you were to do an X-ray scan, all right, because you do not have the bones inside, you will see right through. The scan will go right through. All right, you will see this is liquid, right? Everything is liquid, and you don't see any bone there. The bone actually blocks the ray, and you get the shadow. That's why you see the black color, the black color on the photographic plate because of the bone. Then the bone blocks it. Okay, then you can see the shape of the bone. But if you don't have any bones inside the body there, if you were to do an X-ray, you will not be able to see the internal structure. You will see that, it's like liquid lah. You will see that's liquid there, right? Different color and so on. Okay, now let's see the musculoskeletal. Basically, there are two parts of the human skeleton. Okay, I show you the human skeleton. I'm sure you're very familiar with this. You always see this, right? You always see this human skeleton. Now, human skeleton, let's look at the two parts first. First of all, I'm going to touch on the axial skeleton. Okay, remember the word axial. Axial actually means axis. Axis is like the middle part where everything revolves around it or rotates around an axis. Axis is like a kind of a point or a line which everything rotates around it. Is called the axis. So this is the axial skeleton. By axial skeleton, you understand that it will be somewhere in the middle. So it's very easy to remember. Axial skeleton is everything that is in the middle. Okay, now let's go on first. Now let me look at the exoskeleton. First of all, the skull, right? Your head, right? You don't say the head, right? The skull refers to the bony structure. If you say the head, you're talking about everything. Your hair, your cheeks, all the muscles and all the tissues, all this is considered your head. But if you were to say the skull is more correct because we're talking about the bones now. We don't say the head, you say the skull. Okay, the skull is the bone part, the bony part of your head. Okay, I think there's some more question here. Okay, all right. Yeah, all right, Sarati. Right. So you just make a mental note. This is axial. Besides the skull, you have, what is in the middle? Look at the middle. You have the vertebral column. So the vertebral column starts from the base of your skull and it goes all the way down to the buttock. Okay, at the end of that, actually it's actually inside there. You can't see much. But when you sit down accidentally, sometimes you sit, you terduduk, you find the base of your spine is very painful. Now that is where the end of your vertebral column is. Okay, because you sometimes it is your butt, let's say it's your butt. Sometimes you sit too hard or you fall down. Or somebody pull out the chair. A prank, they pull out the chair and the person sits. Now, don't ever do that, because if you do a prank like this on your friend, the person falls down and sits on his butt, he can break the last few bones at the back, and it's very painful. Never do this prank on your friend where someone is about to sit, you pull out the chair, the person sits there, and he's going to break we call it the coccyx, the caudal vertebrae. That is the last 4 bones at the end. It's very painful. Okay, it is very, very painful. Don't do that to your friend. Okay, let's look at other things. Also in the middle, you have the ribs. Okay, the ribs actually protects. It's like makes a cage. It's like a cage. Okay, it's connected to the vertebral column, and it comes like a half circle like that, and it joins to the front. So in the front here, there is what we call the sternum. This is the breastbone. Okay, now this is all there is to your exoskeleton. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts only for your exoskeleton. How to remember? Very simple. As long as it's in the middle, all right, that is your exoskeleton. All right, okay. So, all right. Vertebral column. Oh, vertebral. I'll come to that later. All right, vertebral column. You will see it when I talk about the vertebral column later. Okay. So, any other questions that I can? In Malay, ribs is tulang rusuk. This is the ribs. When you sometimes you eat in a restaurant and all that, you buy the certain part of the meat of your, the lembu and all that, or even the pork of a Chinese will take pork or that. You have the ribs there, and you have some flesh wrapping around it. So you eat the flesh, and you have a bone in the middle. That is called the ribs, tulang rusuk. Okay, let's carry on. So that's the first component. That's the axial skeleton. Now we look at appendicular. Okay, how do you pronounce this? Appendicular. Okay, quite long. You have 5 syllables. Appendicular. Now, appendicular, it just means the extra parts. All those that are not in the middle, not all those that are not in the exoskeleton, or the others that are on the left and the right side of your skeleton, that is your appendicular. Okay, that means everything that is not in the axial will come under the appendicular. Okay, there are 4 parts here. Okay, 4 parts here. Number 1, pectoral girdle. Pectoral. Now, pectoral actually means the shoulder. So you will see here, I've circled those 2 parts. This is actually your shoulder bone. Okay, later I'll go into detail that just to see the whole structure first. Then I'll go detail one by one. Pectoral girdle is more like the shoulder bones here. Okay, and pelvic girdle. Now you see the hips here. You have one big, actually it's 3 bones fused or joined together. You have that forms your hips. That's where your punggong is, right? That's where your butt is. Okay, your punggong, your hips. Then you have your upper limbs. That's where your arms are, right? From the shoulder right to your fingertips here. That is your upper limbs. And the next one is your lower limbs, which is from your hips, right? The first bone here, right? All the way down to your toes. That is the lower limbs. All right, okay? So let's go on. I will go into detail every little part when I go through this. I just want you to see the overall picture first. When you see the overall picture, it's easier for you to remember. So you can see that appendicular is all the ones that are not in the middle. It's very easy to remember. So axial, appendicular. Okay, next. Let's look at the pectoral girdle. Okay, the pectoral is for the shoulder here. The pectoral girdle has got 2 bones there. Okay, scapula, and clavicle. Scapula and clavicle. In PM is also known as scapula. Sometimes they call it tulang belikat. Okay, this is the bone at the back. Okay, I'll just show you. This is the shoulder. Sometimes when you pat people on the back, isn't it? You find there's something jutting out here, especially people who are very thin. You will see the bone jutting out the back here. That is the scapular bone. Okay, so that's the scapula. And clavicle is the collarbone. All right, collarbone is here. You can see here. This bone here, people who are very thin, you can see there's one bone here. This is the tulang bahu. We call it clavicle. Okay, just 2 bones. So you can see here, clavicle is connected from the back of the scapula. All right, there's one part of the scapula and joins to the front here, which is your sternum. So it joins to here. Let me take a pen here. This is the sternum. Right, wait. Yeah, I need to. Now, this is the sternum. This is the sternum bone. You see the sternum bone here, and your clavicle joins with the scapula, which is behind. It's behind at the back of your rib cage. Your rib cage. It joins to this one, to your sternum. Your sternum is your breastbone. Okay, so there are 2, scapula and clavicle. And another picture here, you'll see this is the front. The left picture is on the front. You look at the person from the front. Now, the picture on the right is when you look at someone from behind. Let's say you're approaching someone from behind and you pat someone on the back. Now, this is what you're patting. You're looking at a triangular shaped bone. That triangular shaped bone, you can see this triangular shaped bone, the triangle one. This is your scapula. Okay, triangle shape. It attaches your arm actually to this one, your rib cage. Okay, right. Let me address some questions here. Okay, tailbone. Yeah, tailbone is the coccyx. Yes, the one I said when you fall down, you hit there is very painful, the tailbone. Okay, ribs is the tulang rusuk. Okay, all right. 3 bones, right? 3 bones for which one? Shoulder blade is 2. The shoulder blade is clavicle. Right? The shoulder blade is clavicle, and then this one is scapula. So there's one at the back here, and there's one here. Okay, understand? Right, scapula. Let's use the scientific term. Don't use too many of the shoulder bone or this. These are layman terms. Okay, you are science students. Okay, you should use the correct one, which is scapula, clavicle. Okay, right. Let's go on. Now, what about the hips? The hips just now, you see one big butterfly shape. This one. Okay, you see there's a butterfly shape. So you have ilium, ischium, and pubis. Actually, there are 3 bones, but they are more or less joined together. Okay. Now, ilium is this big piece here. Okay, let me just highlight this ilium. This big piece here is the ilium. You see that? Right? And there's actually, left and right here, and the middle, there's a little hole there. Right? That's where you have for women, you have the uterus there, all right? And the intestines are there and all that. Okay, the small intestine, the large intestine is inside there. Okay, so for women especially, you find that the pelvic girdle is a bit wider. Okay, this is to allow the passage of the babies to go through the head and when during birth. So you notice that normally women's hips are a bit wider. It's because the bone is wider, bigger. Okay, they have a bigger bone. So sometimes you may wondering how come scientists, when they dig up old bones, they will know this is a woman or this is a man. How do they know? Because they can't see the face. The face is already all gone, decomposed already. Okay, now this is K-part question for you. How do they know when archaeologists they dig up bones? How do they know this is the bone of a man who died thousands of years ago? Or this is a woman or who died thousands of years, hundreds of years ago? How do they know? This is a very important determinant, whether it's a male or woman, or male or female. If they look at the shape of the bone, the pelvic girdle. Because for males, they don't have to give birth, right? They don't have to give birth, they don't have to carry a baby inside there. So the shape of this pelvic girdle doesn't have to be so wide. Okay, so it's a bit narrower, or the proportion, right? Proportion of this, the width of the pelvic girdle compared to the other bones in the body, the proportion is for the male lah, right? It's like this But for female, the proportion of this pelvic girdle is wider, it's bigger. So this is being to enable a woman, you need to have a bigger pelvic girdle because your hips are to be more stable, especially when a woman is pregnant. Most of the body weight is centered in the abdominal, okay, and the abdomen. So it's very heavy there. So you need to have a support there, all right? So you have the pelvic girdle and you have this wider, and also you can see that the middle part here is a bit bigger so that the baby's head can go through. Okay, so the second part, that is the ilium. Okay, this is the ilium, right? The big part here. Then you have the ischium is here, this part, this bone here, like the U shape here, this bone here is fused together. And then you have the pubis, the front part here. This one, actually, this is the pubis, right? This one, the pubis, the front part here. Okay, and the symphysis is actually the joining point, the joining between the two sides. Okay, you don't have to be very specific about how to label it. You just need to remember ilium, ischium, and pubis. Okay, that forms your pelvic girdle. Okay, let's go on. Now the upper limbs. All right, let's look at it. Yeah, okay. Next, nothing else. Okay, upper limbs. Upper limbs, you can see very clearly it starts from your first bone here. This first bone here. This is called the humerus. Okay, what are the bones here? First, humerus. Okay, humerus. Not it sounds the same like humorous. Sometimes it's funny, all right? But the spelling is different. For humorous, Humorous. Okay, Humorous. Humorous means funny. This is humerus, is the name of this bone. Okay, and then you have here, this part here. Actually, there are two bones. This part here is actually ulna and radius. Now, how do you know which is ulna, which is radius? Okay, very simple. You extend your hand like you want to shake someone's hand. Okay, you want to shake someone's hand. Put your hand in front of you and you want to shake someone's hand. Now, the part that is facing up, this is the radius. The one that is up, okay? The one near your thumb. The one near your thumb is your radius. And the one at the bottom, this one is your ulna. Okay, how to remember? Very simple. If you look at A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the alphabets, your R comes first and then your U, isn't it? So your R is on top, the U is at the bottom. Okay, so ulna and radius. Okay, after that you have carpus. Now, some books will say carpals or carpus is the same. Doesn't matter. Because carpus is noun, carpal is adjective. Doesn't matter. You can use it interchangeably. Carpals is actually these bones in the wrist. Okay, now your wrist doesn't have only one bone. No? There are a few tiny bones here. I can't remember, about 8, I think. Okay, 7 or 8 bones here. So these are the carpals. And after that, you will, if you open up your palm, right hand, this is your palm. This is metacarpus. So there are actually 5 metacarpus. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you look at the skeleton, it looks like your fingers are very long. If you don't have the meat here, you don't have the flesh here, you see the picture here, it looks like very scary, isn't it? Whenever you see the skeleton, it looks like your fingers are very long. Actually, it's not the fingers. You're looking at the palm. These 5 bones here is actually the palm. We call it the metacarpus. The bones are metacarpals. And lastly, you have the finger bones, which are called the phalanges. Phalanges are the finger bones. Okay, so if you look at here, your thumb has got 2. How do I know it's 2? Very simple. You just bend it. When you bend it, you can see there are two. One bone here, one bone here, two. Okay, what about here? Here you have 1, 2, 3, three bones. Okay, so altogether you will have 14 phalanges in every hand. So here 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. It's 12 plus 2 is 14. Okay, for the other hand, it's the same thing. Okay, these are called the finger bones. They're called phalanges. All right, okay. Let me look at the comments. Pelvic girdle, yes, pelvic girdle can break. Any part of your bone can break. Yeah, be careful. Any part of your bone can break. What happened when it breaks? Okay, of course, the first thing you need to worry is about your baby. The pelvic girdle breaks, of course, you will be very, of course, the woman is very painful. It's going to be, any part of your bone breaks is going to be very painful. Okay, because they are nerves. They are nerves. You feel the pain because your nerves are affected. So there are nerves connecting to the bones there. So what happens to pregnant women depends on how bad is the fall. All right, she will have fractured pelvic bone. More importantly, I think you want to know what happens to the baby, right? So it depends. If the impact is, she can have a miscarriage if it's really bad. Yes, it can heal. Bones can heal, correct? Bones can join back. So that's why when you have a fracture, the doctor says they always put the cement, isn't it? They will plaster it up, and then you're not supposed to move it. Because why don't move it? You don't move it, it will heal. Your bones has got cells. They will form new cells to heal back the line of the fracture. Okay? She can have baby again because if the fracture does not affect the reproductive organ, she can have babies again. Okay, but more importantly, you said it's fractured. So of course, she's going to have pain, and of course, it will take time for it to heal. Bones can heal. Okay, so you don't move it, you put cement. Okay, lower limbs. Lower limb is starting from the first bone, you call it the thigh bone. Okay, your thigh bone. Starting from the hips, the first bone that comes there is called the femur. The femur is the longest bone in your body. Okay, that's the longest bone of your whole body. That is the longest bone, and quite strong. It's quite thick. Okay, one of the strongest bone and the longest bone in your body. Then you will see here patella. Yeah, this is called we call it the kneecap. It's a small little bone here, which is in front of your knee. Okay, it's at your knee. So that is called patella. Right. After that, you will have two bones in your lower leg. Your lower leg got two bones. One is called tibia, the other is called fibula. Now, which is which? The tibia is the thicker one. You can see here. All right, you can see here, this is tibia. The thicker one, the bigger one. The bigger one is the tibia. Now you can see a fractured one. This is a fractured bone. Okay, in fact, your fibula and the tibia are fractured together. Must have been a very, very bad fall. Okay, so this is the inside. This is facing your, this is the right leg. This is the right leg. This is the right leg. So this is the inside. This is facing the outside. This is the outside of your body, and this is facing the inside. So the tibia, all right, the tibia is nearer to the inside, and the fibula is nearer to the outside. Fibula is thinner. The size or the thickness of the fibula is thinner. All right, that is the two bones inside your, we call it the shin. We call it the shin bone for tibia. Okay, lastly, you have your tarsals. Tarsals are these bones in your ankles. Your ankle is a pergelangan kaki. Okay, there are also a few bones, about 7 or 8. Can't remember the number. Metatarsals. Tarsals first. And metatarsals, these are the bones at the palm, on the palm, the tapak kaki, at the base of your feet. That is the metatarsals. And phalanges makes up the toes. All the little bones, actually your toe has got little bones, they are called phalanges, and they are very small. Okay, you can see that the number, all right, the size compared to your finger is long, right, the phalanges, but the phalanges on your toes are very much shorter. All right, okay, let's continue. Now, so we are done with the appendicular skeleton. We go to the human vertebral column. Just now, someone was asking me about the human vertebral column. Now, this is your human vertebral column. We call it the tulang belakang in BM. Okay, it's called the tulang belakang. Okay, all right, what happened if you hurt your wrist? Oh, how would yes, it will heal. It will heal because bones have the ability to, because they are made of cells. You have bone cells. So bone cells have the ability to be, what do you call it? It can be reproduced. So they will produce cells, and they actually merge and they join back the fracture. It will. But the thing is, you do not need to, you must not be interfering it by moving too much. You must let this bone rests. That's why you always put plaster. The doctor will say, plaster that part, don't let it move. It will heal back. But in due time, it will take time. Okay? Which part is affected? Of course, that bone itself, the movement will be affected, and the nerves, the pain will be there. Okay, now let's go on to the important part. This one you have to remember. Human vertebral column is not just one bone. In fact, there are 33 bones here. If you were to count, okay, I'll tell you how to count them. You have 33 bones, which are actually, they're not fused together. They are just, we call it joints, okay, one after another, one after another. So it starts from the base of your spine, base of your skull. The first bone here is called C1. Why we call C1? Because it's cervical bone. Okay, before that, let me just give you the number. So different parts of the vertebral column differ in size and shape. You will find there are 5 groups. There are 5 different types of bones in your vertebral column. There are 5 different types. Okay, 5 different types, which I've labeled differently. So you can see the color. Okay, next one. Let me go on first. There are 5 types. So before that, remember the magic number, 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. Okay, 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. Now, why we need to remember? Because each type of bone have a specific number there. So you need to remember the number, okay? So first group is called the cervix or cervical bone. There are 7 of them. They form your neck, the bones in your neck, okay? This forms the bones in your neck. They are called cervical bones. All right, 7. So we call it C1. The bones here are C1 up to C7. The first one is called C1. The second is called C2. And all the way to C7. Okay? Now, I will address the questions later. Let me just finish this one. Thoracic. The second group is a bit longer because you have more of it. You have 12. Okay? So there are 12 thoracic vertebra. All right? Vertebrae or vertebra. So you call it T1 up to T12. So each bone, you see the size changes. From smaller, on the top smaller, you see the size become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You see the T1 here and the T12 here, the size is so much different. It becomes a little bit bigger and bigger as you come down to the base of your spine, which is your back. Okay, next one is called lumbar. Lumbar, there are 5. L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So you see the size also roughly gets bigger, okay, as you go down. So L1 and L5, the size is slightly different. It becomes bigger at L5. And after that, you have the 4th group, which is called the sacral vertebrae. They are actually fused together. It is one piece of bone. It looks like a triangle like this. After I show you like a triangle like this. It's fused. Why is it fused? Actually, there are 5 bones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But because they're joined together, so we call it fused. It is one piece. But basically, it's actually supposed to be 5. But they have already joined together. Okay, everybody is normal. It's joined together. And lastly, the one that I said, caudal, which is the last part. This forms your tailbone. Now, the caudal vertebrae is very small because we don't have a tail. If you had a tail, if humans have a tail, that would be longer. So that makes up your tail. So animals like cats, dogs, you see the tail there, right? The tail of the animal. Each one has a small little bone there. These are called the caudal vertebrae, or we call it coccyx. So each one, theirs is many more. Ours is only 4, and they are also fused together. Okay, so 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. Okay, just remember that number. So you have cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal. And you can see the shape of our spine is actually supposed to be curved. Because when it's curved, when you have an arch, actually it's a very strong structure. Now, why is not a straight line? And why is it not one bone? Okay, I asked this question just now. I didn't manage to answer it. Why is our bone, let's say this is your body lah. Why your vertebral column is not just one bone? Okay, I give you an idea. Why is not just one bone? Why do you have so many small little pieces, 33 pieces altogether? 7 plus 12 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4 is 33. Why not just one bone? Save all the trouble. Why not just one bone? Anybody can answer that? Can anybody answer that? What will happen? Which part is affected? Okay, brainstem. The brainstem is the base. Okay, maybe the brainstem is actually not the bone, you know. Amiro, brainstem is actually tissue. It is actually the nerve. It's actually the spinal nerves. It's not a bone. Today we're talking about the bone, not the nerves. Okay, it's the sacral bone, part of our fingers. Monkey paws. Yeah, we don't have any use for the tail. So that's why our sacral bone has degenerated. It already, like I said, we call it kechut already because we don't use it. We don't have any use for our tail. That's why it sort of like shrunk. Because we don't use it, it will shrink. Yeah. So remember, use your brain. You don't use your brain, you're going to shrink your brain. Many more, let's say humans don't use your brain. In another 100 years later, the brain size will shrink. That is evolution. Okay, same reason our fingers not. Yes, correct, Amiro. Now, this is answering that question here. This one, why we don't have just one bone? Because if you just have one bone, you cannot bend your finger. Correct or not? You can't even grip anything. So that's why the same thing, when you have more than one bone, you can bend. If you only have one bone in your body, that means you are not able to bend at all. Every time your body has to be straight. You can't bend forward to pick up anything. You can't bend to the side. You can't bend backwards like a gymnast. Okay, so that's important. When you have small little joints like these small little bones, it affords the movement of bending. It's flexible. You're able to bend forward and backwards. Okay, forward and backwards. Depend on how flexible you are. Okay, let me carry on. Now, this is the picture from behind. If you're looking at someone from behind with all the tissue stripped away, you'll be able to see this thing. So the yellow one is your cervical vertebrae, all right, which is 7 here, just starting from the base of your skull. Okay, I deleted some label here because there are too many. It'll be very confusing. Okay, then you can see your clavicle here. That is not the vertebral. This is not the vertebral. This is just the appendicular, showing you the clavicle, which is in front here, and the spine, the scapula behind. And this is your humerus. Okay, this one, the humerus here, this is humerus. All right, this is the upper body, upper arm bone. Okay, so you have your vertical cervical here. Now the light green one, this is your thoracic vertebrae. And you can see what comes up from there. You see this bone from your left and your right. These are the ribs. This is what your thoracic are for. This is actually a place for your ribs to come out from. It adjoins your rib to the front part of your body. So you have 12 thoracic vertebrae. That means you should have 12 ribs. Yeah. Okay. Of course, but some are shorter. Like you can see the last two, they are just like, the bone is not complete. It doesn't make a complete circle to the front. It's just a little bit short like that. But it's connected to your thoracic. So you have 12 thoracic vertebrae. It also means you have 12 ribs on the left and 12 ribs on the right. Later I'll show you. Okay, now the next one is lumbar. Lumbar is very important. They are very large. The reason is because most of your body weight is centered there. So it has to be very strong. So that bone later we will see that is very big. Lumbar is the biggest one. The vertebral column, the biggest bone is at your lumbar. Okay, and the next one you have, this triangular thing that we see here. That was the sacrum, or we call it coccygeal vertebrae. Okay, never mind, don't follow this. Remember the name sacral vertebrae. And lastly, the coccyx is like, it's like partly hidden there, very small. This is your caudal vertebrae. Okay, now next thing, I want to clarify certain things. Some students ask me, teacher, what do I use the name? Why some books say vertebra, some say vertebrae, some say vertebra. Which one is correct? Actually, all of them are correct. It depends on how you use them. When you say vertebra, it means singular, just one piece. One piece of the bone is a vertebra. Okay, that means just one of it. Vertebra is just one. But when you say many, usually you put S, isn't it? You have like, let's say flower, you put many, you say flowers. But for English, it's a weird language, right? Sometimes some things don't follow the rule. So if you want to say many vertebra, you don't say many vertebras. You say vertebrae. So vertebrae is the plural of vertebra. It's a noun. You're referring to that thing. That is a noun. Noun is, we call it kata nama, the thing. Okay, you can hold, you can touch, whatever. That is tangible noun. Okay, now next one. What about vertebral column? Okay, why do we use vertebral? Now, it's the same meaning. It's just the fact that Vertebral is the adjective. Adjective describes the thing. So when you want to say vertebral, you cannot just say vertebral full stop. You must say vertebral what? Vertebral column. Okay, vertebral column refers to the whole thing, the whole thing, the vertebral column. So it's all correct. Depends on how you want to use it. And when we mark, okay, your SPM and so on, we are not particular about whether you put the bra or the brae or the vertebral column, as long as your meaning is there. So don't be too worried about whether I'm using the correct spelling or whatever. Do not worry. As long as you say vertebra, vertebrae, it is correct. Okay? Don't say other things. As long as these three can have the same meaning. Okay, so where is the spinal cord? Just now someone said about your brainstem. Brainstem is different. Brainstem is actually tissues. These are your nerves. These are your nerves. So the nerves actually is in the spinal cord. It sits inside your vertebral column. So the vertebral column is actually bone. It is actually hard. It is not the soft tissue. Okay, now I know Form 4 students are learning your chapter 12, which is your spinal cord. Now, spinal cord is very important because you have all these nerves running through. From your brain, it controls the rest of your body. So it has to be protected because it is very, very fine. It is very, very, we call it delicate. So imagine this is your spinal cord. Okay, I'm looking, this is your spinal cord, which is all tissue here. Now, you need something to protect it. So this is where your vertebral column comes in. Your vertebral column closes it like this. That is why you need your vertebral column. So it is to protect your spinal cord. So do not make the mistake of saying vertebral column is equal to spinal cord. No, spinal cord is this one, the tissue. Okay, with all the neuron, axon, dendron, all this you learned before, right? With your all this, your body cell and so on. And this is the bone. Now my hand here is the bone. It actually closes up. That's what it means. There's a lubang here. Your vertebral column, there must be a hole here. All right. So the common word spine. This is a general name. This is people who do not learn science. They say spine, but in science we call it vertebral column. So you can say spine. You can say backbone. It refers to this bone. It doesn't refer to your spinal cord. So the spinal cord is the tissue here. Your vertebral column is the hard tissue hard bone that covers it, okay, to protect it from damage. Okay, now, so I hope you understand all this. Now, next one, so the vertebral column, just now we counted, we add 7, 12, 5, 5, 4, you get 33 bones. All right, 33 bones. So we're going to look at each part now. The structure, the shape, okay? When I give you this bone, you should tell me, you should be able to know this is cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, or coccyx. You should know. This is within your syllabus. So now you need to know what it looks like. Okay, so questions have come up. They show you a picture, A, B, C, D. What bone is this? So you cannot run away by not learning how it looks like. Okay. All right, why you need to have 33 bones? Just now I said that you cannot have just one because it is so that your body will become flexible, so that you can bend backwards, you can bend forwards, and so on. Okay, so this is more of a K-bar thing. Okay, they ask you a question, why your bone, why go through all the trouble, have 33? Why don't you just have one? All right, have one and then be done with it. Your spinal column is inside. You just, why? Because it is very important. You need to bend, right? It's flexible. Okay, now next one. Let's go on. I think, you break your neck. You break your neck. Actually, it means it's a very general word. You break your neck means actually you're breaking your spine. Okay, you have disconnected the spine inside there. The bone, you may fracture the bone, but what's important is your spine. Your spine is, if it's damaged, that means you cannot control your body and you will be paralyzed. Okay, cervical vertebrae. Okay, so we have a lot to go. Let's carry on. Cervical vertebrae now looks like this. I know at first you're going to be burning. So many names to remember. Okay, of course, can't help it. You have to put the effort to learn up the names. Okay, first of all, this is a typical cervical. C3 to C7. Just now remember, I started off with C1, C2, C3. The C1 is the first one. It's called C1. This is the typical one. Why typical? This is the common one. C1 and C2 are slightly different. Okay, so I want to go through with C3 to C7 first. C3 is smaller. As they go to C4, C5, C6, and C7, they become a little bit bigger. Okay, so as you remember, they go down the spine, go down that, the size of it becomes a little bit bigger. So C3 to C7, the size a little bit different, but the shape is like this, same. Okay, what are the shape? What are the parts? First of all, the features. It has short spinous process. So you have this part here which juts out. This is called the spinous process. Process, it means another name of process, another meaning is actually the thing that juts out. It's called process. Okay, it doesn't mean the process, you process something, you want to make something. The process has got two meanings. This meaning of process means it's something that juts out. So this one is actually facing the back. Okay, that's why when you touch the back of it, you feel all this little thing coming up, jutting out at the back of your spine. That is you're touching the spinous process. What is the function of spinous process? It is for attachment of muscles, your neck muscles. Your neck muscles attach onto your spinous process. Okay, small centrum. Now this is a centrum. Centrum is considered like the body of your bone. Okay, the major part of it is the centrum. So it's considered quite small if you compare to the other bones. So we just say small centrum here. Wide and short transverse process. Now what's the transverse process? It is like the wings. You can see the wing? Two parts here jutting out the side here. The transverse means the side. The meaning of transverse means side. Process is the thing that juts out. So transverse process, what is the function of this? Is also for attachment of muscles. Which part of the muscles? Because it's the neck, so this is for the neck. Okay, it's short and wide. So it's short, not very long. And you have a pair of special structure here called the transverse foramen. Actually, it just basically is a fancy word for name of a hole. Okay, you can see there are two holes here. One hole here, one hole here. This is to allow the blood vessels from your heart, right, to go up and supply blood to your brain. So it's protected inside the bone here. So your two important blood vessels that bring blood to your brain is protected because it goes into these two small little holes. We call it transverse foramen. So all cervicals will have these two little holes. The other bones will not have these two little holes. Okay? So the first and the second are special. So we call it C1 and C2. They have special name also. They don't look like this. Others I'll show you, right? The C1 is called atlas. The C2 is called axial. Okay, all right. Now, I'll later again have a look back at the slides and so on. Now, atlas vertebra is called the C1. So the shape, when I give you the picture, you should know it's going to be atlas. It looks like this. It looks like a flat disc like that, all right, with a very big hole in the middle. This is the neural canal. Now, neural canal is where you put the spinal cord inside. Just like I was saying, this is your spinal cord. So this, the lubang here, the hole here is your neural canal. It's where your important spinal cord is going to go through. Okay, so this is the first cervical vertebra, and it has a large neural canal, quite large. You can see because the base of it, the base of your spinal cord is actually at the base of the brain here is quite big. Okay, next, small spinous process. You see here, very small. Okay, the spinous process is very small, and then it's like a bit flat, right? And you have a pair of transverse foramina. So singular is called foramen. If it's plural, it's called foramina. Okay, don't worry about that. You can say foramen, it's all right. Okay, you don't have to change it to foramina. So this is, now see, you can see over here, one, you can have two. All the cervix, doesn't matter C1 up to C7, they all will have these two little lubang, which is called transverse foramen. Okay, and there's no centrum. You can see there's no one big part of the middle part here, which is forms the body of your bone. No centrum here for the atlas. All right, now let's see. Okay, the these vertebrae articulates with the skull. What's the meaning of articulates? Articulates is a term that we use to say that it makes contact with. So this is the first bone. Let's say this is the first bone here. This is the atlas, and your skull is here. So your skull sits on it. We call it articulates. So your vertebra articulates with the skull. Okay, I'll show you another picture. So here, this is the atlas. This is another picture of atlas. When I give you this picture, you should be able to tell me this is atlas. It's a bit like triangular shape, a bit flat. You can see the two transverse foramen here. You can see a big neural canal here. Okay, and you will see a small spinous process. And it looks like a, like a diamond shape, like a rhombus shape here. And okay, all these parts are spinous process. You must know how to label also. Neural canal, the transverse foramen, and the transverse process is the bone part where you have your muscles attached to it. Okay, today's lesson may be a bit long. Sorry, students. So next one now, let's look at the first one. This is the atlas. The atlas will articulate with the skull. Now, this circle represents the skull. So the skull sits on top here. Okay, and all these parts here which are colored here, now these are called facets. Facets is where they touch the previous part. These are the facets. You see all this? These are the places. This one will touch this part here. This one will articulate here. We call articulate means make contact. This part here will articulate with the bottom part here. This one articulates with here. And this part articulates with the skull, the base of the skull. All right, okay? Now, no centrum. All right? Now, next we look at the second one. This is the second one. C2 is axis. The shape is different from atlas, very different. You see something jutting up here. We call it the dens or odontoid process. Okay, now this is the same thing, all right? Same thing here, but you can see from a different angle. Something that juts up here is called the dens, or another name is called the odontoid process. In our textbook, they use odontoid process. Okay, there's also a neural canal, right, to allow we call it the spinal cord to go through. And you see all the facets. Facets is where the previous bone will touch this part. This is the contact surface. So to remember, facet is like a contact surface. Okay, transverse foramen, the little lubang here, the little holes at the side, and the process, the part that juts out for the muscles to attach. Okay, I can go a little bit faster because I think I'm a bit slow because of a lot of explanation. Okay, this is another picture of the axial vertebra, all right, which is the second one. So you can see the same thing. This is a neural canal, right? Transverse process. Always remember these names. Then the facet is where it touches only, okay? Transverse foramen, the two little lubang there. The spinous process, the one that juts out here, which is considered small, and the dens, or we call it the odontoid process. Okay, so the second vertebral, okay, these are the notes here. Large spinous process, small transverse process, and a pair of transverse foramina or foramen. And it has an odontoid process, this one here, which articulates with the facet of the neural canal of the atlas vertebra. That means it goes into it. So this is your, let's say, atlas. This is the dens, the jutting out part here. It actually goes inside. It goes inside this is your dens, right? Look at my finger. This is the dens. This is the atlas. So it goes inside. That's why it says by articulates with the facet of the neural canal of atlas, of the vertebral atlas. Okay. Next one, we go to thoracic. Let's see. What are the questions? Yes, there is. Yeah, there is a spinal disc. Correct. We are not looking at the disc now. Okay, we are just looking at the bones only. There is in between every not only the skull and the atlas. Amiro. If you have all the vertebral column, you have one bone here, right? Continuous. In between, you have the disc here. Yes, you have, right? Because we're not looking at that one now. We're just letting you know because that part is cartilage. That's a soft bone. This is hard bone. Okay, let's look at thoracic. Now, thoracic vertebrae, what are the characteristics? Now, it's different. You have long spinous process. Now, this part is long. You will see, teacher, it doesn't look very long, you know. It looks so short on it. Okay, the reason is because you're looking at a different angle. You're looking at this angle, it looks short because the spinous process is slanted. So it's actually pointing the other way. So when you look at it, if you look at the side, it's going to be like this. But if you look at this, it looks short only because you're looking at a different angle. It looks short. But if you're looking at the side, you will see that it is long. Okay? The spinous process is long. It's for the attachment of your back muscles, not your neck anymore. Neck is for the cervical. So thoracic is for the attachment of your back muscles, which are strong. Spinous and transverse processes are for attachment of the muscles and the ligaments. So together with your transverse process and your spinous process, this is where your muscles, your back muscles attach to it. Okay, next. The transverse process has facets. Facet means the place, the surface for it to attach with the ribs. The ribs will come out from here, right? You can see afterwards I show you the picture. The ribs actually attach to your thoracic vertebra. So you have 12 thoracic vertebra. That means you have 12 pairs of ribs. 12 on the left, 12 on the right. Okay, let's look at this. Now I'm going to show you your thoracic vertebrae. And this one, I'm just magnifying that part here with your thoracic vertebrae. And the two bones that come from the side, you will see this. This is your thoracic vertebrae. The green part is your centrum. And these two are showing the ribs. You can see this is a rib on itself. This piece is a rib. And you can see it articulates. This is the facet. This is the facet, all right? This is the place where it touches, it makes contact. So you can see that is a rib. And then it goes to the front and it makes like a hemisphere, like a half circle like that, and it joins to your sternum. And that makes a cage so that your heart is inside and it is protected. Okay, lumbar. Let me go on to lumbar. Lumbar, you can see very obvious, the centrum is very big. Okay, how you know it's a lumbar? Very easy. Look at the centrum. The centrum is huge, very big, and the facets are short. Sorry, not the transverse process are short. This one, the wings are short, but the centrum is very large, and the spinous process is, we call it flat, wide and flat. This is actually the biggest and the strongest vertebra. Of all the vertebra from C1 to the last one, the coccyx, this is the biggest and the strongest. Why? Because the centrum is the biggest. Most of your body weight is actually at your back, at your, this one, the curve, the part of your body where it curves inwards, that one, just above just at your hips there, just above your hips, okay? That you have a short, they have a short and wide spinous process, so you can see very clearly. I can see here, it is not long. If it's long, it would be like this. This is long. That would be the thoracic vertebra. That would be long. But you can see this is short. Okay, how do I? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is short and it's wide. Wide means it's a bit, you see, wide. It's like a triangle. It's like a square here. Okay. So it's short and wide and large centrum. This is very important. You see it's lumbar. How do you know it's lumbar? You always look at the centrum. It has a very large centrum to bear the weight of the lower back of the body. So your lower back bears a lot of weight. Your entire head, your shoulders, your, the upper body, everything rests on there. So a lot of weight is put on your back, actually, the lower back. So it has to be very strong. Okay, so that's why your centrum has to be very big here. Okay, let me go on. This is a centrum. You can see as the L1 to as it progresses down to L5, the L5 will be the largest. So L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, and then they articulate. These are the places where they articulate. We call it the facets, the places where they touch. Okay, right. Let me go on. Now we're going to the last one. Almost. Sacral vertebrae. Now this is very easy to remember and also very easy to recognize because it's like a triangular shape. It's 5 vertebrae, but they are fused together. They are joined together. Okay, so here you will see like like a shield like that, and the upper part here is to articulate, is to join with the last lumbar. That means the L5. Okay, just now you have L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So the L5 sits on top of that, and after that is your sacrum. Okay, and now this is your sacrum. This whole part, how does it fit into your pelvic bone? You see, this part actually fits into the middle part of your pelvic bone here. Okay, and that bottom part is your the last part. And the next one we see the coccyx. So it actually fits in your pelvis. All right, it articulates these two sides. These two articulates with your articulates. That means it makes contact with your that pelvic bone. Okay, and you can see a lot of lubang here. This is to allow passage of the nerves and the blood. You see, you need to have supply your blood to your legs. You see, how to go to your legs? It must go through your hips first. It goes through here, and then it will sort of like branch out. It branches out into your legs and so on. So these are for the nerves and the blood vessels. Okay, right. Now, caudal, the last part here in humans, it serves no purpose, and we have no use for our caudal. And maybe that's why they degenerated. So 4 bones fuse together to form a triangle. It's also triangle, but very small triangle, and it's pointed to the end. Right? For animals with tail, they are not small. They will be continuous. You got many more caudal vertebrae. Okay, vertebra. For human, just 4 only, and they become smaller and smaller. So you will see it tapers down here. So this is the sacrum. Just now this is the sacral. On top there's a sacral. At the bottom is the 4 little bones here, which are fused. They are called the caudal vertebrae. Okay, so basically it's this one. Okay, if you magnify it, you get this small little and they're triangular. All right. So this one, I said, the one that can pecah. If you accidentally or play a prank on someone, you're so bad. All right. Somebody, sit on it. It's very painful, I can tell you. And the person will not be able to sit properly for a long time because it needs time to heal. All right. Please don't ever play that prank on your friend. All right. It is very painful. you sit on your this one. You see it's curved. It's slightly curved. Okay, so this is the back. This is the front part of your body. It's slightly curved to the front. So you have small little bones here. All right, okay. So now let's look at the last part. We compare and we look at the comparing. Compare and contrast the similarities and differences. This can be a question in the essay. So we compare now. You learn all the 5 types of the column. The vertebral column. How do you compare the features or the characteristics? Okay, let's look at the similarities first of all the 5 types. Okay, all the vertebrae will have spinous process, will have the transverse processes, okay, will have the centrum except for the atlas vertebrae, the first one. The first one has no centrum, and they also have the neural canal to allow the what? To allow this spinal cord to go into the middle. So all of them will have. So this can be a similarity. Okay, next, let's look at the differences. Differences, all right, we compare within 3 only lah, all right, the 3 major parts. So the first, second, third group, cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Okay, the other sacral and all this is very prominent. It's nothing much. You just can see the shape, right? But these 3 are more difficult too because they look almost the same, but the different features are there. You can see it here. First of all, you look at the compare in terms of the spinous process. For cervical, spinous process is short. Thoracic vertebrae, spinal process is long. For the lumbar, is short but is fat. Short but fat for the lumbar vertebrae. Secondly, for the transverse process, the wings are the wings that come out at the side here. Short for cervical. Thoracic is long because you need to attach the ribs to it. And also lumbar is short. Okay. Then the centrum size, you can compare in terms of 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 things you can compare for these 3 types of vertebrae. So the third one, the third one is called the size of the vertebrae. Centrum. Cervical is small. Thoracic is medium size, somewhere in between, and the lumbar is very big. Okay, you can see you can't mistake it. The large centrum. And lastly, the 2 little holes. Remember, I'm talking about the 2 little holes. Only the cervical has the 2 little holes here, because it has to, protect the blood that goes to your brain. So it's in your neck here. Right? The others, they don't have the thoracic. You don't have blood running into that. You don't have the transverse foramen. Okay, and the lumbar also do not have. Okay, means the blood is on the outside lah. It's not inside that vertebrae there. Okay, so I have given you on the rundown of everything. I think it's quite detailed as well. I think maybe teachers in school so do not say so much in detail. So I would really, really like my students to know everything. Okay, but it's needed, and of course a little bit more so that you can answer K-part questions. All right, okay, so I think that's the end of today's lesson. Let me see. Next lesson, I'm going to go into joints. Okay, so today's a lot for you to remember. I did not want to carry on because this is actually 14.2, still to continue. This is only half of 14.2. So the next lesson will be 14.2, the second half, because I don't think you can handle it because it's too long already. All right, it's too much and it will take a long time. So I want you to handle this part only, remember the names, and try to memorize it from now on. Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, Amirul, there is a spinal disc, you have answered that. Can you share a PPT after the lesson? How to share with you? Okay, then you contact me later. Okay, thank you, Yilin. Thank you, Minyin, Sabrina, Janice, everyone. Thank you very much. These are my students. All right, and those of you who are new to my channel, I'm going to continue with some more lessons. All right, so please, if you have not subscribed, it will help me to motivate myself to subscribe. You have more followers. Okay, subscribe my channel, and then also you will be notified. If you subscribe and you click the bell button, when I have a class on different time, you will be notified that I'm going to have a class. Okay, so you will know. You don't have to ask me, am I going to give you the link or whatever? You will know that I'm having a class and so on, and you can get the link. Okay, so go to my channel and you can actually, you can contact me there. All right, or you can comment or put whatever comment on my video. Okay, so I will see you next week then. Hopefully, I may have a class next week. Okay, usually my Saturday is quite. All right, okay, I will see you then. All right, thank you, students. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yanli. Thank you, Amirul. And for you who are new, all right, thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed the class. You've learned something new. Okay, see you next week. All right, bye-bye.